I collected cards in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
really dropped everything off, and then only started getting into it about last year. I was helping a buddy start his card shop up,
yeah,
and I was like, oh man, like do they still do these Diamond King things? And he's like, yeah,
yeah.
they're still around, but I was like, does Dick Perez do it? And he's like, who? It's like, he's the guy who did all the cards. Like he said, you get your
Yeah,
favorite cards every year, and it was always the cool cards.
right, yeah. And then yeah, so I'm real this like I said, a writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer who's just like a brilliant guy named Bill Kashadis, and yeah, he was just friends with Dick Perez, but they did a whole book of man, I forget what it's called, but I think it's just every Hall of Fame painting that Dick ever did, and then Bill wrote the words for it. But it's like a hoagie size thick. It's so it's a great book. But yeah, Dick signed that for me and gave it to me when I was getting started. It's really cool, but it's beautiful work and just got all that great baseball history too written down. So that's like also cool. So that's what this is. This project's awesome. My dad was he's retired, but he was a history teacher. So even playing baseball, when I was 8 years old, I was always getting all these stories of like, way back to Ruth and those guys and the Negro League players, really. My dad was real good about talking about how those guys, there's a handful of them that were probably better than, the major league players, but they weren't allowed in, and so yeah, this is definitely close to my heart and cool to do.
That's cool. That's so awesome. See, everyone talks about like their parents getting that. Where my parents had zero interest in baseball, and
Oh, really?
it was my grandfather that had done it. And I remember going to our lake house, and Grandpa would always have a cold hams, and sit and watch whenever game was on
Yeah,
there.
yeah, right.
And that was my baseball experience. And then combined with that, the 1981 Little League World Series. So it was won by Kirkland, Washington, and that was literally like 5 miles down the road from me. So
Yeah, that's
I
cool.
remember just, on TV, here was these guys that were 5 miles down the road that were obviously rock stars.
Right.
And that was like drove me into that passion of baseball.
Yeah, yeah, that's
It
awesome.
wasn't until that ESPN documentary came out on the 30 for 30. And I realized that was it. I said that would have been what drove me to get baseball. Because
Yeah,
my
right.
parents said like they were like 2 weeks late to join baseball back when I was 6 years old, and so they wouldn't let me play. And then I played basketball, and then as soon as like the baseball signs were there, I had noticed it on the notice board and like grabbed like a handful of it
Right.
of forms
Yeah.
to go do that. And they said they've never seen me so excited. And that day, that I was like, I get to play baseball.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, signups used to be so hard. You had to like drive there and like sign up in person and everything. It's like you had to mark your calendar like Saturday, January 12th. You got to make sure you're there. And like now it's just like, sign online. And if you're late, you're just like, oh, I'll pay you $25 extra to sign my kid up. They're like, yeah,
But
but
that's
there's,
really it. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, it's like that. I mean, like I said, if you didn't know about it and you didn't have a neighbor that knew about it,
right. Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
missed it. It was sign
Yeah.
up. So
Yeah.
that
Like
was
there
my
was no like mail flyer. It was just like, yeah, exactly. If your neighbor didn't know, if your parents weren't in the inn, you weren't going to get signed up. That's a good point.
wow, that really takes it back. Yeah, because we signed up to the Boys and Girls Club, and that was everything was done out of there, and that's how it all started. So
Yeah, yeah. And then the dads start cheating bad, then it's like the draft gets shady real fast.
it's funny you say that because I remember people going like telling the really good guys who are new to the league that like if you do really bad, people
Right, exactly. Yeah.
drop down, and then you had these stacked teams because they'd known that this guy was in the neighborhood, knew he could throw
Yeah,
fast
exactly.
balls at
Yeah.
12-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad and my neighbor always coached me my whole little league career. My dad was like overly fair. Like if I had a good season, he'd be like, "You're not making the All-Star team because I don't want people to think I just picked you." I was like, ah. But my neighbor's dad was like, he was like Belichick. He was just walking that line of like what he could get away with. So we always had the new kids like skip tryouts and like he would scout them at home. It was fun.
I don't think much is these days. I think it's still going on.
That's what my older son, he played, he never made it to the big diamond. I think he stopped when he was like 10 because yeah, the dads around here like just got real intense and like he felt like he wasn't good. I was like, you're fine, you're 9, don't worry about it. But he did enjoy it, but he switched to lacrosse, and he loves lacrosse. But I have no clue how to play it, but he's great at it. Lacrosse, I will say, I love baseball. Lacrosse is much better to watch as a parent when they're 9 years old and they can't throw a strike. It's a rough game to watch.
I think that's why our parents all drank through our games back in the day.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But on the other hand, by the time they're 12, it gets, that Little League World Series age. It's like awesome, So it's just that learning curve at the beginning. It's a little rough.
Yeah, and you kind of wean out the people that aren't interested. You don't have that guy in right field picking rocks and kind of going, my parents signed me up, I don't want to be here, and
Exactly. Yeah.
So no, it's interesting because out here you literally get guys who've gone to New York, Boston, Toronto, Florida, catch a game, and they're like, oh yes, I want to learn how to play baseball, and then show up with a glove on the wrong hand, and you're like, no, you're right-handed, so you need a left-handed glove. Because
yeah.
like cricket, if you're a catcher in cricket, you wear the glove on your right hand if you're right-handed.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So it's one of these things. So that's the thing they can kind of relate to and go, okay, that's how we would do that.
Right. Yeah.
And then you start off the basics and you kind of go, I always told my guys, like, look, like if you fail 7 times out of 10, you make the Hall of Fame, and like that. It's a baseball just a failure. And you guys were so frustrated because they went 0 for 4 for the day and had an error.
Right.
Like Scottish baseball, like a typical game's like 15 to 12. So, it's like, look, everyone makes errors, you're not going to worry about like shutouts or strikeouts. It's not a huge deal.
That's great. Yeah.
You run the spectrum, and we've had, former major leaguers, they played the minors, to literally guys who've shown up in that there. So,
Very cool. So how many teams do you have?
So there are 2 in Edinburgh. Oh, I'm getting a weird feedback. Are you getting?
Are you guys getting that as well?
Yeah.
Not yet, I guess.
Is that you saying?
It was wiggling a little bit, but it stopped for a minute. You guys look at it,
That was weird. That was some kind of like Darth Vader kind of stuff.
Beelzebub has decided to guest on this edition of Ball Caps and Bagpipes, evidently. What the hell was that? It seems to have gone away, so.
Yeah, it was when you plugged your stuff in, so I'm blaming you for that. It's your.
I was already plugged in. I just came off mute.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
I've been giving you quite a hard time recently, so I think it's overdue.
Okay. So there's 2 teams in Edinburgh, 2 teams in Glasgow, 2 teams in Aberdeen, and 1 in Dundee Tayport. So there's 7 teams up here, and I think overall
one team in Glasgow.
I said 2 in Glasgow.
There's 1 in Glasgow. It's only 1 team in Glasgow now.
Oh gosh, yeah. Glasgow. I think in the UK there's roughly about 90 teams in total. So
okay.
So and then, you run the gambit of like the really good teams in London, because they have 15 million people to choose their players from, so you get good there, and then
you have about 100 players in Scotland, Jason.
Yeah, 100 players in Scotland. So
and about 2,000 down in England, so it's a much bigger pool down there.
So do you have softball, like men's softball as well? That's what everybody plays here, by the time they're my age. There's softball leagues as well? There
is softball, yeah, Jason. I don't really know a whole lot about the softball, but I think there's more softball than there is baseball in Scotland. Am I right?
Okay, that's what I'd just say. Like here, by the time you get to be adults, you can't play baseball well anymore. You switch to softball, Nothing against the true softball where they pitch fast. That's incredibly challenging. But the beer league, the softball slow pitch we play here gives you that little spark of your youth.
So there's roughly, they say there's about 25,000 people that play softball in the UK. So I think in Edinburgh there's like 16 teams, and then there's like a 6 or 8 team in Glasgow. But you find more people play softball just because of the time commitment, because you can show up on a Tuesday and play and then go home. So I mean, yourself, once you have kids, like your free time disappears. So and that was why I retired as well, because as soon as I had my second one, my wife's like, you can't spend Sunday on a baseball field.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I played baseball till 18, and then we'd still play when we were like young 20s, just pick up, and then but then I played softball, which was very fun, until kid number 2 put the end to that, So, but that was a blast, that was really fun. It's just you get all the strategy and a little bit of the glory of hitting the ball, but you don't have to, pitch. The pitchers can't throw hard when you get to be 30 or so.
When it comes to children, it's the second and not the first cut that is the deepest.
Yes, right, yeah, yep. And then now I have 3. Once you get 3, you're outnumbered, so you're in trouble.
Strike 3. Well, strike 3 and you're out. It's the classic. Right. Let's say we get started here, and we'll properly get into this conversation. It's we're over half an hour late. I want to first off apologise, Randall. I ran out for a sandwich
nice.
in between interviews, and realised I had no clean plates or anything like that to work with. So I had to
you're fine.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the third and final interview. This fine Tuesday evening. This isn't Tuesday evening. This is Monday evening.
Well,
I've had a shocking night tonight. I called Les Lester, and I'm sore and I'm tired from yesterday, and I'm also way too hyped for the ALDS. Let me try that again. I'm John McKellar, one half of Ball Caps and Bagpipes, and we have.
It's Tuesday now. It's 12:02. So
you got switched.
Okay. So I was right the first time, kind of. I'm John McKellar, Ball Caps and Bagpipes. This is our third and final interview tonight. We're joined by an excellent artist, a great guy called Randall Graham. Did I say it right, Jason?
Yeah.
The reason I say that, Randall, is I'm used to saying it. We pronounce Graham as Graham. So it's a totally different one. But when in Rome, So I'm John. There's Jason.
And I'm Jason Durr, former league president and Baseball Scotland Hall of Famer. I'm also the owner of Dugout Classics. And you've already caught part of our conversation that we've had going before we actually introduce ourselves. So Randall, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hello. Thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure. And my name is Randall Graham, and I'm a painter and artist outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and participating in this campaign. I guess that's what we would call it, the campaign to benefit the Negro League Baseball Museum, the 100th anniversary celebration, and just a bunch of fantastic artists and makers and just creative people, supporting a wonderful history and museum and a great cause. So yeah, pleasure to talk to you guys and help spread the word. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us, Randall. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. We always like to start with the same question and end with the same question. Now, we've kind of already touched on what I'm going to ask you, so I'll just ask you to go into a wee bit more detail and elaborate for anyone who's just joining us. Tell us about your baseball background. Growing up, I imagine you were probably a Philly, being from Philadelphia. Did you play it? If so, to what level and what positions?
Yeah, good. Yeah, this is like a dream come true. Like I was a serious baseball player. So yeah, I've always loved art and loved sports from pretty much right away. Like a lot of people, your parents probably played a big part of it, but my dad and my grandfather and uncles are just really big sports people, and so it's always been kind of in our blood. But yeah, baseball in particular, I played from probably 6 years old till 18. I played through little league and big leagues and high school ball. And I played, the high school years were really fun. Our school team was not great, the Great Valley Patriots, but I had a lot of fun playing. But then when we played the summer ball, like the Legion or the, neighborhood teams, that was great. I played for a team called the Black Sox, and that was, my best buds. We had a lot of fun doing baseball during the day, maybe not the best stuff at night, but we were very tightly knit and had a lot of fun, and we were good too, so it was very fun. Mostly I played third base and catcher. I was catcher most of the time, so I feel like I was pretty good defensive catcher, good at calling pitches, but I had a very not its strongest arm. So, that's what stopped me from playing, I would say. But I love catcher. Once I started doing that, very much my favorite position to just be involved with every play, and just kind of see the diamond from that perspective. It was really fun.
So tell me about some of your favourite baseball memories growing up watching the sport and following it.
Yeah.
Were you? I'm guessing that like I say, I'm guessing being outside Philadelphia, you'll be a big Philly.
Philadelphia, yeah.
Do you have a particular ball game that sticks out in your mind as like the most memorable, or do you have any kind of periods that you
There's
romanticize?
a lot. Like I said, my dad took me to a lot of games, and I was very lucky to have that. And so, I was born in 1977. So the Phillies won the World Series in 1980, but I was only 3 years old. But those guys were all like, folklore, who your fathers were telling you about, even when you were like, I'd say by the time I was 7 or 8, I was pretty fanatical about baseball. But Philadelphia is known for sports, of course, but we went to Veterans Stadium. So if you remember back then, it was like, a lot of the stadiums were all concrete and built the same, like Pittsburgh. And there's like probably 5 stadiums that, if aliens landed, they wouldn't know the difference. They're all just these stock things. And it was fantastic for football. We were really the Eagles were really intimidating. For baseball, it was not the best place to watch a game. You could be very far away from the field. And the Phillies weren't good, but I do remember those early years, listening on the radio and stuff. I remember Mike Schmidt hitting his 500th home run when I was driving to my grandparents' house. I remember that pretty vividly. And, the early days, that's probably one that sticks out. But like at that same time, I had a couple uncles and stuff, and we'd drive up to Boston, to Fenway, with your Yankees hat there on, John. And, in 1986. So I like I'm a Phillies guy at heart, to be honest with you. But I always had a soft spot for the Red Sox too. And I followed them a lot. I had some great memories at Fenway. I remember, if you've ever been there, just like, you order a hot dog and like everyone's got to pass it down to you, that's like, you can't, they can't walk through the aisles or anything. So it's just a whole different feel. You can imagine that. Who knows how Fenway will do things, like when everybody's got to touch your food. But yeah, that was fun. I remember Dwight Evans hitting a ball over the Green Monster and out of the stadium. That was a real fun memory. And yeah, I could go on all day, honestly. There's a lot of great ones. So and playing too, playing, I had a lot of fun as well. So
who was your Phillies hero growing up?
Hero, well, there's, just like everybody, there's kind of different eras. So when I was real little, I mean, Schmidt was the guy. You just kind of grew up, and you were kind of too young to know how good he really was. But I think, Mike Schmidt was my early hero. And on the other side, with the Red Sox, I liked Wade Boggs a lot. I always liked him. But then as we got into like the 90s, in the 90s, I was in high school. So the 93 Phillies were, magically very good, if you guys remember that. But they were basically all on steroids and drunk all the time. But, they were magically good. They were last place in 92. They suddenly got real good in 93, made it all the way to the World Series where Joe Carter hit that home run, that walk-off home run in the World Series against what's his name? Oh, blanking. Mitch Williams, Wild Thing, Mitch Williams, and crushed us all. So that was, I was in high school and you were allowed out with your friends. We were driving and stuff. So I remember losing that game. We were all at like a restaurant. It wasn't a bar. We weren't old enough to go to the bar, but it was like a restaurant where younger kids could gather. And I remember we threw and I swear it wasn't a beer either, Dad, but somebody threw a bottle in the parking lot because we were mad. And the police like came and yelled at us, and you were like 17, but you just want to be like, we should be allowed to throw a bottle. The Phillies just, it was a walk-off home run. But
those police should have been thankful they weren't in Vancouver,
What's that?
Anytime the Vancouver Canucks lose a Stanley Cup Finals, they just destroy the city. So the guys should. Yeah. So those cops should probably have been thankful.
Right. Yeah, Philadelphia gets a bad rap. Honestly, we're not too bad of riots when we lose or win, but just like every victory or defeat, there's some bad apples in the streets. But yeah, I remember all those things and playing a lot, and I'll definitely let you guys chat and inform too. But then a really important part of my baseball life is that my father grew up with Robin Roberts Jr. was basically his best man at his wedding and everything. So the Hall of Famer Philly Robin Roberts was my dad's baseball coach and everything. So like we would go to picnics and stuff when I was 8 or so. But yeah, Robin Sr. was 65, 70. He was there with all old Phillies called the Whiz Kids. I forget which year they were, but they're like the 1950 Phillies. I would all go to barbecues with these guys when I was like 8 years old, and they were all in the Hall of Fame. So that was pretty nuts. So, like I said, we're pretty steep in sports history in my family. So, it's I just happen to be an artist. I love art. I'm very passionate about it. But yeah, like the sports and baseball in particular is really just ingrained in me. So this project's great. It's perfect blend for me. It's an honor.
I'm very curious. So you're at a barbecue with a bunch of Phillies Hall of Famers and Hall of Fame. Did it dawn on you who they were, or was it like, it's just Robin's dad? Like, is that?
Yeah. My father was always good at being like, he's legit. Like, he's like, even meeting any baseball professional is pretty cool, but he's like, yeah, he's like the best Philly ever, So. And it's argued that he still is. Probably Schmidt's probably considered better than Robin was now, but yeah, and Robin was like my dad's baseball coach, like growing up. So it was pretty wild. And those guys, so I'd be at picnics. I mean, baseball is so different now, but Robin and like Kurt Simmons was another really good pitcher back then, and Kurt was always in the picnics and stuff. And they were really, when you start talking about baseball, they were like very concerned with, there was an inter-team basketball league. So like when the Phillies played the Mets, they'd play basketball on the side, and they cared more about that. They like hated each other. And so they were they'd always talk about basketball. It was so weird that like they were like, they of course took the baseball seriously, but they were like, a whole nother level of stuff off camera that was like way bigger deal. And just, Robin was definitely very, a good guy and very good, but he'd tell stories of like, they would still take the train to games back then. And like, you can't even imagine this stuff, but like some of the he'd call them the young rookies would like, they'd be on a train and they'd be shooting at buffalo, like as they're, you're like, what? You're like, I want to talk about your, no hitters and stuff. And they were just talking about weird things, so that's pretty wild.
That's awesome.
And yeah, last funny one. I'll let you guys talk. But
like I said, we have no bedtime, so we can go.
This is the last one of the night, Randall, and it's your show. Cool. So please.
Robin was my dad's baseball coach, and first, especially with the Astros, and nowadays they talk so much about stealing signs, and Robin would just like, instead of just worrying about hiding your signs or whatever, he just always consider it like, if you're fast, steal second. So he would just yell out at first base like, Jim, steal second on this pitch, and like. There was no signs or whatever. You just yell it at the guy, and my dad was like, we'd always steal it. Like it would mess with their heads. It's pretty funny. So, but yeah, so it was a lot of history and just, and then playing's great too. Like I said, I was not very good, but I was good enough to like play through high school and play for the high school team and all that. And, definitely just enjoyed, moments of, I broke up a no-hitter once. That's probably my best game. We lost by like 3, but breaking up a no-hitter was pretty cool late in the game. So, but yeah, it's a good time and good buddies. And you still like me and Jason were talking before about one of his friends he grew up with, but you still like have fond memories of those baseball friends you have, like, oh, I wonder what they're doing. I just ran into one the other day. It's like, oh, hey bud, what's up? So creates quite a bond in this human experience, and as much as it's fun to watch and all that stuff.
Cool. Do you want to touch on Randall's art, Jason?
Yeah, exactly. So we already chatted about this before, but we'll do this live now. So you finished college as a graphic designer, and then you had a pretty cool job then?
Yeah. So shout out to Grand Slam in Malvern. So my great friends, the Cooks, own Grand Slam in Malvern, and I worked there for a long time. I actually worked there before college, and then my friend's father bought it, but that part's boring. But so we ran it, but it's a magical place where we had batting cages, so you could just walk in and practice, buy tokens. But then we had a baseball academy, so high level training for people that wanted to, whether you're doing private lessons to become a better pitcher or your team could rent the space. But half the building was very serious about baseball, and then the other half was like fun laser tag and whatever, miniature golf and stuff, but just like a really fun job. And I ran, helped manage it and run their marketing and all that. So I was kind of like the adult, but all the employees were teenagers and 20-year-olds, and it's just a fun place. But the baseball is very fun. And we would have, in the early days, not all the teams had batting cages and stuff yet, which just seems so weird now. But yeah, there was days where Schmidt would walk in and stuff like that because they lived closer. And there's we had the speeds are set. I think there were 80 miles an hour, like 65 and like 35. And Schmidt would hit in the middle, and people would be flabbergasted. But he was just working on like hand-eye stuff, where, when you're like trying to show off to your friends or a girl, like everyone goes in the fast, and we'd always be like, you're not going to hit that. Like, just sneaks up on you. But yeah, we'd always be like, the pros hitting the medium cage. They're just working on their timing and all that. But yeah, it was a very cool place. So yeah, baseball's always been part of it. And like I was telling Jason earlier, like I was kind of transitioning to art. I always wanted to be a painter, so I was very thankful for this job, but I was trying to transition to being an artist full time. And I just started doing watercolors of all the Phillies. This was probably like the 2000 Phillies, the Rollins and those guys, Ryan Howard, and just started selling them. And then, one of our customers, and he actually coached there as well, but was writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and he's written a bunch of books and stuff, named Bill Kashadis. And Bill has really helped me out with the baseball history and knowledge. And he was friends with Dick Perez, who was a big time baseball card, Topps. I think he just did Topps. He probably did Donruss too.
Donruss, it was Donruss.
Yeah, but he was like the biggest baseball guy. So I was doing baseball paintings real early on, and I do lots of other paintings. I do, landscapes, florals, portraits, but baseball and other sports art always kind of sneaks back into my work because I'm passionate about it, and it's just fun to do that stuff.
Cool. So I'm very interested about Dick Perez because again,
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And I want to know what it was like, working with him and getting mentorship from him, because I mean, like, Dick Perez is the first person that when we talk about sports and art, he's the guy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who the other guy is there that used to do the paintings. It will come with me, but it was like, Dick Perez is the man.
Yeah, Dick. He's a super nice guy. Was very generous with me. First off, he's just got an awesome house where he like has this dedicated like room for his paintings. Like he basically has a mini gallery in his house. It's like really cool because like when he shows it to you, he's like talking the story. He's not saying, look how well I painted this guy. It's like he's talking about whoever he painted, that player. And it's like he knows everything about him. And art wise, he was just giving me tips of like, yeah, it's probably boring stuff, but like don't get too perfect with like certain features, like leave it a little looser so that people can kind of imagine how they think of the player and stuff like that. and he was real big. I mean, it's just his personal philosophy, but he was really into, if there's ever a stadium involved in the background, like he wanted it perfect. He was like, he wanted the scale, the dimensions, and all that. So I don't do that as much. I'll make stuff up in the background, but he was real big on like, if you're at Ebbets Field, this needs to be correct, So yeah, and then he was just very encouraging and, was just a great help to me for sure, especially early on.
So that's interesting you say that, because we had Tim Godden on, and we let him go and talk with Anika Orok, and then they went into a deep dive about that there, where they didn't actually care about the player, but you wanted to make sure the uniform was correct, and you wanted the background was correct, and it was just like, no, because they were saying like the worst part about it is like they'll do something for fun and they enjoy it, and then they go, well, that was the 1953 season, the 1954 season, they had this advert there, and so they went to a long discussion about that. Is that the player didn't make a difference, but the background had to be correct.
Right.
Tim even goes further. He wants to know what time of day the game would have been taking part.
Right. Yeah, that's
so that he can get the angle of the sunlight correct and stuff like that as well. The guy goes right deep into the details.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I'd say I probably exaggerate a little bit more. I'm always looking for a better light on the person or the focal point or whatever the subject is. So I definitely make stuff up, but whatever floats your boat with that, it's like, but yeah, the history of stuff is so interesting. But yeah, I would be annoyed. I'm sure if I was like, this is a bad picture because it's noon and the lights like right above them, it's probably less interesting than a low light for me. But yeah, that stuff's really cool, If you ever hear the stories of like at Fenway, how there's like a secret mix to paint the green of the wall, it's like copyrighted and everything. So that's baseball. I think baseball lends itself to being very particular and superstitions and all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
I find it really amazing and fascinating to think that you and someone else can take the same picture of a ball game and come out with a totally separate interpretation each. Moment. That's what I think is just incredible about this game, and about speaking to all you artists as well, and just hearing so many different ways to approach something that at its core is very simple.
Right. Yeah.
Very straightforward, and that for me is one of the best things about this project and speaking to you guys.
It's definitely cool seeing everyone's interpretation, and it's all just different sorts of energies filtered through, different people. So yeah, it's great to see. This project's great, seeing everybody's different art, and even the quote unquote makers. I consider everybody's artists and creatives, but people doing leather work and doing stuff to the baseballs, and it's just amazing. Everyone, taking that energy of a sport and the Negro leagues in particular and just turning it into something else is really cool.
So you touched on this when we were chatting before we started there, and you said your dad had passed along the history of obviously baseball in Philadelphia and the Negro leagues as well. Is there a rich Negro League foundation in Philadelphia?
Phillies wasn't great back then, to be honest. I think there was a team I'm sure there was a team, and I don't know particularly the Negro Leagues team, but yeah, Philadelphia didn't shine real well back then when they started introducing, around they gave Jackie Robinson a pretty hard time, and it's pretty well documented that Philly was not the best when the transition started, let the African Americans into the league. So in particular, I don't know that, but my dad was a history teacher, and like the big guys, he was real big on telling me, that Satchel Paige was probably better than anybody else that was pitching. And particularly Josh Gibson, he was always real big on saying this guy could hit better than Babe Ruth, and just nobody talks about him. He doesn't get the credit and all this stuff. And, and Jackie Robinson, he still talks about Jackie Robinson all the time, but Jackie was, he's always like, Jackie could have played 5 other sports and been professional, he's just that good of an athlete. And it was, definitely impressive of him just taking on baseball and doing it with such grace and putting up with everybody. And, he probably could have had an easier time playing basketball or something like that, as good as he was at baseball, he was that good of an athlete where he could have just flourished in anything. So, yeah, my dad always discussed that, and like I said, with Robin Roberts and stuff, like it just was part of all our conversations. If you're talking about John Kruk in the '90s, my dad can rattle off, other, out of shape baseball heroes or whatever. So everything's connected, with my dad and everything. So
my favorite John Kruk story is the one that you told me, Jason, about selling his number for a pack of beer.
Case of beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't remember who got traded to the Phillies or who the Phillies signed. And
yeah, I forget too. I remember a story, but I forget who. But yeah, those guys back then. I used to Dykstra's not the best regarded person nowadays, but in his heyday in Philly, Dykstra was like, Philadelphia loved him because he played so hard. But Dykstra would come into Grand Slam where I worked all the time, and oh man, not the smartest guy in the world. But that was part of that team, that was just like nuts. But you could tell that they had a lot of other things in their system, But I guess hopefully you guys aren't too big of a. I don't want to get sued by Lenny Dykstra.
Allegedly. Yeah, we're not saying that any particular ball player was or wasn't inebriated all the time. We're just suggesting that might be the case in our opinion.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
And also, I need to do the really fast. Randall's opinions do not reflect the opinions of Ballcaps and Bagpipes. No, I think we'll be
also like they're definitely heroes in Philadelphia. We love there's underdog losers, blue cat class people. So it's they got hot. Darren Dalton was their catcher. He's still beloved, and Schilling, before Schilling had his Red Sox glory, he was here in Philadelphia pitching well, and yeah, that team was fun. But there's a lot of lesser known guys that everybody likes around here from that team that just played hard and did well for a year and then fell apart. But my just to get you in more trouble, the whole steroid thing, I just view it as like they were all probably doing it back then, and just I feel like they should all be let in it if it's in the Hall of Fame nowadays. Like I loved watching Bonds. He was. I'm sure he was on steroids, but geez, the guy. Remember when Bonds was up and like you just had to decide if you wanted to walk him or pitch to him? Like that's crazy.
Yeah, I think he got pitched to properly once in that 2002 World Series, didn't he? Like in Game 1, and just absolutely belted a pitch that I think was like up. I think the pitch was like a fastball up and into him, but he just turned on it and absolutely destroyed it. And then the rest of the series, they were just kind of like, okay, maybe we should pitch around him. And he still was like the best player on the field all series, despite the fact that they weren't pitching to him anymore.
Right? Yeah. He was nuts. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, in a way, I think that guys like Bonds, Alex Rodriguez, Mark McGuire's, they've done their legacy a lot of harm by using steroids because they were already that good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's like you've tried to cheat despite being a league above anyone else in your sport. That's what I think. That's what I personally have the issue with, and the reason that I would probably disagree with you in that fundamentally would be I don't think they should be in the Hall of Fame because they may be Hall of Fame players, but they're not.
Right. Yeah.
They tried to steal from people who maybe weren't using.
True, you're right. Yeah, I mean, breaking the records, you're right. That obviously there's all those guys.
But to your point, no one was complaining at the time. So you're right. Again, like it was just everybody was just enjoying watching balls fly out of the yards left, right, and centre. So who's really to blame? Is it the people who turned a blind eye when it was obviously going on for so long? Baseball really only started, in my opinion, punishing people because they didn't have anywhere else to go with it. They were getting pressure from outside. So yeah, it's a discussion that could probably be had until early morning. But yeah, that's my tangent is over. But I completely agree with you that at the time, no one cared. Yeah,
right, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you need to get over the 94 strike, and the home run race is exactly what pumped blood back into baseball again. So
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And
So
now
when you get a chance, I want you to ask your dad about Wayne Twitchell.
Wayne Twitchell. I'll ask him. I'll ask him and let you know. What am I asking about?
Just remember because he's my friend's dad. That's all.
Oh, okay, cool.
He pitched there, so
Sure remembers him, yeah.
you would have had the good stories like Wayne Twitchell. He came down for Dad's Weekend in college, and we got him drunk, and he told us some stories. So it was always good fun to hear the stories there.
I'm sure my dad remembers him. He remembers everybody. It's crazy.
So unfortunately he's most famous for giving up the giant home run to Dave Parker when he was pitching for the.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The one that went like 600 feet kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
So he told the story about how he gave up the home run, and then when he came when the Pirates came on the field and they were doing the warm-ups there, he had signed the ball and said boom or something like that there, and gave it to Twitchell. So he was like, thanks, that really helped there. So
right, yeah. Well, all that stuff, when you're in the public eye, you get these like embarrassing moments, but it's still like, man, to be that good to get to the major leagues is so hard. It's still very impressive no matter what. I think, we're hard on the celebrities if stuff like that happens nowadays, but it's still like, I think once they retire and settle down, it's like, man, that's like elite level skill and just and mental capacity too to play baseball. It's easy with sports talk nowadays to just be like, what an idiot, every little thing. And it's like, do you remember how hard it is to hit a baseball like when it's coming fast?
Yeah.
But,
I was I don't remember which one it was last night, but I was talking about Bill Buckner.
Buckner.
The series when it went through his legs, and
right.
like just how much crap that guy got for so long. Yeah. And it's like errors happen in games every day. Things like that happen in games every single day because the speed of that level of baseball is I could never play baseball at that speed.
No.
There are very few men alive that could. And then people gave him so much. He was basically tortured for 30 years almost.
Threats and stuff. And I mean, he was a great hitter. I feel like he was above 300 average or real close to it for his career. Like just a fantastic hitter.
Yeah.
And Red Sox lost that next game. They had a whole game to win this game.
That's the thing. Like the guy was an excellent player, but because of one mistake that he made in a high leverage game,
right?
It's like, oh, Bill Buckner, he can't field the ball and stuff like that, and he's this and that. It's unacceptable.
Yeah. And you can think of that, like, imagine if that was before television, it's like it would have been written in the papers and you would have been like, if you were at that game, you saw it. But then the fact that it was on SportsCenter for 30 years of the worst play ever, it's like awful, So, but that's the cool thing about the baseball history is, with the Negro Leagues too, it shows you like our flaws and our, the good things and the bad things about humanity through baseball because it's been around for so long, for America at least. In Scotland, I know you have older stuff, but for America, baseball is just that constant. So, even dealing with COVID here, it's like, what was it? Basketball came back first, football was going, all that. And it was still like when baseball was given that little hiccup of, are they going to play? That's what like got everybody super upset and started calling them babies or whatever. But, it's still like that baseball is that constant thing that kind of connects people.
So I was going to ask you with your art, do you have a particular era that you like to do your paintings with in your watercolors?
Well, like I said, I'm notoriously, at least locally, very good life being an artist. I'm so grateful that I get to teach and do it and have enough clout to sell paintings. So it's, that was a dream of mine always too, just like being a sports hero and baseball and all. But I'm notorious for just like all different styles. Some days I get on a flower kick. I might do 10 paintings of different florals. I might get on a kick of landscapes, but the sports always circles back around. But for whatever reason, I did these ones for this campaign. I did like kind of like a sepia tone, black and white kind of style, but tried to keep the players very realistic. So I am going to answer your question. I'm just getting to it.
No, it's all right.
I think I like painting the older players, like that nostalgia. You know, I like it to feel like a memory for some reason. So I like the older kind of feeling, even if I didn't go back to the 20s or 30s. Just I think that memory and emotion is a big part of baseball. Where I think I'd be less likely to do current players with flashy uniforms and like the extra, starter hat logo. Like I'm not into like a million different little logos. I think I like more of that earthy kind of old memory feeling of baseball because that's what I relate to. I can still kind of feel a hot day where I was catching and it's just like, super hot, but it's like the best feeling and you can just kind of remember balls hitting your chest, blocking them as a catcher. It just has a lot of more, memories and emotions. So I think I like painting the older players, whether it's, 60s or earlier and beyond, particularly with baseball. I think it's, and again, circling back to my dad and family, I think just the stories and stuff feel more palpable with the older stories of baseball for me, at least.
Yeah, I think that it is because again, it's one of those things where you can relate to it. You've heard the stories, and it brings that emotion into it when you start doing that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
which the people painting current players are amazing. I love seeing everybody doing interesting color combinations and mashing things up, and it's brilliant. I just for me, I think I like that older style for at least for these baseball portraits. So.
Cool. So what have you done for the fundraiser?
So I did, I brought them upstairs. I did Satchel Paige. They're little, but so I got, see how this shows up on camera. It's backwards for you guys, low glaze.
Right.
Satchel Paige. I did Josh Gibson. There we go.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And Jackie's still wet. I painted him on there. We got Jackie up there too. So, the color's not going to show up real well in Zoom, but they're kind of like this sepia kind of black and white style. So, I really enjoyed doing them. And so for myself, I just was selling them. I didn't do an auction. They're just $200 each. And, I put an email to my people and they all sold already. So I'm super happy about that. And we're donating, donating $300 to the museum. So it's, it's cool that everybody grabbed them real fast and helps the cause and all that stuff. And, I also put out there that if anybody wanted commissions, I didn't know if they'd sell that fast. So if anybody wants a commission, I'm happy to also still contribute 50% of it to the museum. So yeah, super happy with that.
Wow, that's amazing. I know.
Yeah, that's great stuff.
I think you're probably the first artist I know that sold out of all their stuff already. So I know Third Dan had 2 cards, and one of his. And then I think he posted it. And he was going to post it in Facebook, and it sold before he had a chance to post it.
Yeah. Like I posted a teaser of the Gibson one, and that like somebody bought it. I was like, well, yeah, I'm not gonna say no. Like it's you're trying to raise money for charity, and then I put them all in an email that I sent out yesterday to my followers or whatever you want to call them, and everybody snatched them up pretty fast. So I'll keep posting them and sharing everybody's work and doing stuff like this, but I'd love to do commissions if anybody was like bummed about not getting one or whatever, but also very grateful they sold real fast.
Yeah, it's good. I think we're probably going to end up doing this as a yearly thing there. I think it's been such a popular thing there, and everyone's having a lot of fun, and I think everyone's missing the after parties from having these.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, that would be cool. This stuff's great. The more you guys, talking about it all is wonderful. I think there's a great energy with the whole campaign, and big props to Tad. I've never met him. I've met him like I met you guys, but it's a great thing, and yeah, it's really cool.
It's been a lot of fun for us because I say we're 2 dudes in Scotland with a microphone, so we get to meet all these amazing artists and see everyone's work there, and I think sport arts really kind of come together at the right time for everybody. So.
Yeah, as I've said a few times, this project for me has just been mind blowing. I'm just a Scottish kid who found baseball by accident in 2001 when I was in high school, and started watching it. eventually started playing it when I was 25 years old, just after randomly
Yeah.
finding baseball. And then with Jason and I starting the podcast a couple of years, like last year, he first came to me with the idea a couple of years ago. And then for us just to all of a sudden get, invited to do this, and I'm like experiencing the game in a way that I never really got a chance to when I was younger. Hearing you guys' stories from when you were growing up, hearing about this subculture of collecting cards and memorabilia, and then the entire genre of sports art that I never knew existed. That I've been introduced to, and seeing the designs that all you guys have actually come out with now that we're obviously in day 2 of the fundraiser week. Seeing them all is just mind blowing to me, and seeing how many different interpretations, like I said earlier, of the game you guys are coming out with is just it's just an amazing thing to be part of. So I certainly hope it will be a yearly thing.
Yeah, that seems very seems like it's been doing great, so I wouldn't surprise me if we do it again. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, I would love the chance to sit down with you guys every year and just
yeah, and I mean, honestly, if we knew we had it more like we've had plenty of time, but I was telling Jason earlier with COVID and everything, it's like I'm teaching my 3 kids at home, I'm teaching online, and then this great project comes up, and you're like scrambling to do a few paintings. I think if we all had a year, it'd be even more impressive of what everybody's doing, and also more time for you guys to like plan, more stuff like this, which is really awesome. I love it,
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, maybe we can do 1 a night instead of 3 a night next year.
Well, you guys must be tired talking that long tonight, for sure.
It's just such a pleasure to hear all you guys' stories and to chat with you dudes and ladies. It's just been so much. It's worth not being able to.
And I love the fact you guys are in Scotland. It's really cool. It's really awesome. Yeah.
See, you say that, Randall. Have you ever been out this way?
Nah, I was telling Jason before. I've been trying to get to. I've been trying to get to Ireland. My Graham. How am I supposed to say Graham? Graham.
So we pronounce it Graham.
Graham.
So like the color grey ham, but Graham. We had a guy, Graham Nelson, who is from Edinburgh, now living up in Aberdeen. He's the proprietor of Shutout Cards out here, sports cards, and he was on the podcast before, and I kind of jokingly asked him, like, so Graham, how does that feel to be called Graham after living your whole life being Graham and then bumping into Jason and stuff like that? That was funny.
Yeah, so they tell me we don't have proof, but everyone tells me Graham's Scottish. My father's name, they say is Scottish, and then my mother's side was all Irish, so they're still, I forget the number of generations, but we still have Irish family. So I was supposed to teach in Ireland painting last June, and then all this stuff happened, and it's rescheduled for this year, but it's like fingers crossed. But yeah, I've been trying to get to Ireland for a while, and then we have a very good family friend. Shout out to Marielle. I'm sure she's watching Scottish baseball podcasts, but she lives in Scotland with her husband Hank. They're Dutch, actually. They're geologists, but I think they're outside of Glasgow. They're stationed there for a while. So I would have plenty to do with family. I could tour, the Ireland and Scotland and all that for months and be happy for sure.
Well, listen, Randall, if you do come over to Ireland next year, please do jump over and see Jason and I.
I know, I do. The family I was talking about that I worked for, the baseball place. I don't know how famous she is. I don't know how well she is, but her. So the family that I worked with, their brother lives in Scotland as well, and he married, is it Rona McLeod? I don't know if I'm saying it right, but she used to be a sportscaster for the BBC for you guys, but I don't know what sports she covered.
God, you'll know better.
The name rings a bell. Yeah, I'll need to rack my brain and see.
You go look at there. I'll go. You go to Google that. We'll keep chatting away.
Shout out to Rona and Bruce as well. So I have a bunch of people over there that I could visit. Now I got you guys. You think I'm joking, but I'm gonna come knock on you.
No, it's fine. It's all good. Like I said, I'm a stay-at-home parent, so like I said, we can go to the Whiskey Society. I can take you golfing. We're all good.
Right. Yeah.
It depends if you like whiskey or not. That's the question there. So
I
Yeah,
did.
I know Rona McLeod more as an athlete. She used to be
right.
a sprinter and jumper. Yeah, she
Exactly.
used to represent Scotland in athletics.
Yep.
She's the
You got it.
broadcaster now. That's right.
Yeah,
I
so the
remember now.
daughters, her daughters are my friend, my best friend's nieces. They're I think they're getting into college. They're great. They're great. I think they're very good at the hurdles. So I think they're staying in Scotland for school, but they're very good as well. They got their mother's genes for track.
Nice.
cool.
But yeah, it's cool to see baseball over there for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, so that's what kept me here. If I didn't find the baseball team here, I
right, yeah.
thought I would have stick around. So, cool. John, do you want to ask your question? Then we'll get to the cards.
Yeah, sure. Now, Randall, we like to finish off our interviews with you guys with the same question. And that question is, as an American and as an artist and as a baseball fan, what do the Negro Leagues mean to you? And how did you come to be involved with the project?
With the project, I mean, how I came to be involved is really just obviously Ted asking me. But, I do have a certain amount of baseball, social media presence with some paintings I've done and stuff. So I think that's probably what led Ted to reach out to me. The Negro Leagues, like I said, I mean, I love the history of baseball. I love the intermingling of the stories. And I mean, it's not like you had to play baseball to appreciate the stories, but when you played yourself and you kind of understand that lineage, and that's very, it's like akin to the artist lineage. I teach very realistic classical training that's been taught for centuries, the same sort of process. And like I said, my dad being a history teacher, always he taught me about the Negro Leagues and the good and bad of it, like that these guys were great and they were heroes and they were just as good and they were good, businessmen too. They started this thing and made it a thing that people wanted to go watch. And then just looking at the part that we can grow as a society, that it was like it's so unthinkable that we separated the athletes back then. It's just nuts. So, I think it's good to look back at that and just say, why on earth did this happen? But also celebrate how well they played and how well they made it a sustainable league for a long time, kind of like you guys are doing in Scotland. Like, it's not like there used to be corporate sponsorships. It's just like, let's do this thing and make it interesting to people. And, it's like cheesy Field of Dreams, but, if you build it, it will come, so that spirit, skin color aside, just that human spirit of like, let's do something that feels like our heart's in it and see where it goes is something I think we should always celebrate and support. So I think that's my answer.
That's absolutely tremendous, Randall. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to close up, as we always do, with a pack opening. So I'm going to pass over to Jason in just a sec. But before I do, Jason, I don't want you to think that you've managed to slip that one past me with the Durham Bulls uniform. I know my minor league enough to know that you're ripping the piss. Yanks in 4.
No. It was wore the hat and did jersey matches to go from there. So wasn't that. But Randall, do you want to promote your social media and website before we move on?
Yeah, please. Hey, follow me along at Instagram. Is at Randall Graham, Graham. My website's randallgraham.com and Facebook's something similar, Randall Graham as well. So yeah, please follow along and support this whole, what's our hashtags, Jason? NLBMArt, right? Hashtag NLBMArt, and see all the great artists, really. It's a wonderful thing.
Cool. All right. So I got a couple questions before you open the pack.
Sure.
All right. Where's the best place to get a cheesesteak?
So for tourists, they tell you to go to Pat and Gino's, and the cool thing about that is it's near the stadiums. In Philadelphia, the 4 stadiums are all a little bit. They're in the city limits, but they're like this separate little complex. So those 2 are close, and they're good. They are good. Like, they're better than Scottish cheesesteaks. But, basically everyone has their own neighborhood cheesesteaks, not even in the city, but in the suburbs. So. You know, my heart is with John's Pizza in Malvern where I grew up, but they don't exist anymore. But they lasted for years. I don't know who's good in the city nowadays. I got kids now. You don't go down for cheesesteaks too much, but yeah, I'm not gonna like Pat's or Gina's better. We'll stick with John. John's in Malvern. There's not the difference.
And then we were talking about the was it 92 Phillies. So where does Steve Lake?
The legend of Steve Lake. This card has become ball caps and bagpipes history.
He's great. Yeah, it's good old Steve Lake. I used to have a card of Randy Reddy. I feel like he was a Philly for a little bit.
Yep.
You know, because my name is Randy, everyone my whole life would say, Randy, are you ready? Because there's like this awful baseball player. He probably batted 225.
Yeah, he played for the Padres for a while.
Did he? Okay, yeah.
Cool. All right. Did you collect cards as a kid?
Yeah, I did. Again, my dad, my grandmother threw out my dad's cards when he was young. Or not when he was young, when he was in like college, you know, and he had the typical, he had Willie Mays' rookie card and all these things that would be worth so much. So I still have my cards because my dad was like, never throw them out. But I haven't checked if they're worth anything. I know I have the whole 87 box set of Topps.
Right.
And I saved that, and everyone said save it, and I don't know if it's worth anything. I don't think it is. But I got that whole set. I still have a lot of 86 cards. Yeah, I collected them all. I have a lot. Yeah, so I haven't pulled them out.
You can buy a box of 87 Topps for about $25.
Oh, that makes me feel great.
Yeah.
My dad, my uncle broke his arm, and the Giants were playing the Phillies. Again, my family just had super weird connections. I mean, remember, baseball players used to just live in your neighborhood. They weren't millionaires. And my parents' next door neighbor was the trainer for the Phillies. And so my dad would like go to 80 games a year. They would just go with the trainer, would just bring them in the clubhouse, and the Phillies were playing the Giants. And even though my dad and uncle loved the Phillies, my uncle broke his arm and the Phillies were all busy. He brought him in the Giants locker room. And he had this cast signed by like Willie Mays and all the Giants back then. He's like, it would be worth so much money. It would be the grossest thing ever. But he had all their autographs for a summer on his arm. But yeah, I did collect cards. I can't say I kept up with it. Like, I'm not super like into collecting nowadays, but they're great. The other guy I was thinking Tad should have got, there's a baseball card artist. I feel like he's inappropriate for the cause, but he sharpies up old baseball cards. Do you know who I mean?
Yeah, it's a baseball card vandal.
Yeah, that guy's great.
Yeah. I think we reached out to him. There was quite a few other kind of baseball card artists that he'd reached out to.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people. It filled up much quicker than we thought. I mean, you know, at first, 40 of us. He's like, you know, it'd be nice if we got 100. And now I know he's turning people away. He's like, well, if you want to run your own thing, I'm not going to say no to it. And,
right. Yeah.
But you know, we hit 100. So
yeah, I feel like that person's. I feel like I used to follow him, but I don't anymore. But some inappropriate things. But that guy's hilarious.
I don't think he's posted cards in a while because again,
really?
I haven't noticed anything from him either. But who knows? So
yeah.
So all right. So you mentioned 87 Topps. I do have a pack of 87 Topps.
Nice.
All right. So you can pick whichever pack you want, and we'll discuss the players and what we remember.
All right.
Donners, which is the rookie. 1990 Score, which has that Frank Thomas and the Bo Jackson Bow Breaker one right there.
Yeah. All right.
91 Studio, which that Steve Lake card came from.
Ah, right. I remember them. All right.
You get the 92 Donners, which has a Cal Ripken Jr. rookie or autograph card in there.
Okay.
92 Pinnacle, which has kind of cool player cards where they have their hobbies in there.
And Pinnacle have like the holograms?
That was Upper Deck. I don't have any Upper Deck on me at the moment. And then 93 Studio.
All right. I'm a Topps guy. Let's go with the Topps.
Everyone loves 87 Topps. I think we've probably opened about 10 packs of this right now. So it's been fun. I've probably eaten half the gum. So So, but again, the Gubs stuck to the card. It's not going anywhere.
That's awesome.
So let's see. There we go. All right. So we'll start off with a Mariner. We've got Dick Williams.
He's a manager?
Yeah, he was the coach back then. They weren't that good.
I assume you remember him. I can't say I remember him.
Man, this was 86 Mariners. They were still pretty rubbish. We had Harold Reynolds.
Yeah.
Dave Henderson had just been traded to Boston, or he left the Mariners. Danny Tartabull was still around. It was not a very good team.
Yeah.
Harold Reynolds won 3 straight Gold Glove awards. He wasn't that bad.
Yeah, but like you're not gonna that's your best guy. The best thing you say about him is he won 3 straight Gold Glove.
Right.
Yeah. He's not exactly a guy who's going to carry a team. I'll grant you.
Name 2 players, John, out in the 80s Mariners besides Ken Griffey Jr. and Harold Reynolds.
The other.
Yeah, exactly.
Did Edgar play in the 80s?
Nope. Well, technically yes, but not really.
Okay, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
think I can.
I'm going to name like Alvin Davis and Mark Langston were the big names out there, but otherwise, yeah, they
I
were.
can't remember them for the life of me, man.
I started watching baseball 14 years later, so I die.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad baseball there. You kind of, funny enough, I went to a lot of Yankees games because they showed up to the Kingdom.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you used to go to Oakland as well to watch the A's instead because they're so bad.
So you always want, well, who are they playing? Okay, well, at least that team's pretty good, or it was a good stadium giveaway that day, so you want to see that.
Right, yeah.
All right, we'll go with Ron Davis for the Cubs.
I don't remember him, but those glasses they used to wear are very nice.
Amazing, yeah. So we've got a Twins leader card.
Okay, who are the Twins leaders?
Well, it said so with batting, you're gonna see Kirby Puckett all over the place.
Kirby Puckett. Who's their best pitcher?
Wyleven.
Right. What about what's his name? One was Morris.
Oh, Jack Morris. I think that was the 1 year. I think he was a Tiger before that. But you're forgetting Frank Viola.
Oh, I remember Frank Viola. Oh, that's a nice one. Yeah.
Frank Viola, famously half of the dueling no-hitters through 11, alongside Ron Darling.
Yeah, he was solid. He had a good mustache too.
He's a pitching coach in the minors. He's still around.
Oh, really? Wow.
I think I came across him on Twitter, and I was like, wow, he's still around.
Oh, wow.
So, all right, we've got John Cerruti. So
I don't remember him at all.
In there. And wow, the on this date card is pretty rubbish for this guy. Sherman Lawler collected 2 hits in each of his 2 innings in the game.
Oof.
There we go. That's a pretty obscure fact, but never know. We got another manager card, but it's a good one. Earl Weaver.
Oh, nice, Earl Weaver. Yeah. So yeah, I remember Earl. I have a real good friend whose he lived in Philly with me, but his family's all from Baltimore, so I know a bit about Baltimore. They don't have too many good teams either, but they had a bunch. Earl Weaver was the beginning of like the 70s Orioles were pretty good, so I think he was their manager back then too, right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Architect of the famed Evil Way.
Yes, because they had the 4 20-game winners.
Yeah. And Palmer was still pitching in the 80s, right? I think so.
Yep, and he was wearing his jockeys.
Right.
Because who gave the painting to Palmer? I can't remember. One of the guests had done a painting for Jim Palmer.
Oh, really?
If he asked him about his jockeys, and he just said no.
Because
That's what I remember Jim Palmer, because he was at the twilight of his career, know, and it was you got Sports Illustrated, and there was Jim Palmer and his skivvies, and just going okay. All right, we got Jorge Orta.
It does ring a bell. I kind of remember the name, but he wasn't too good. Did he play like?
Started in 72. So Jorge is in the Mexican Baseball Hall of Fame.
Wow, nice.
So there we go. That's pretty good considering you saw a playing career and he's already in the Hall of Fame down there.
Yeah, right. That's always nice.
Cool. So we got one of my personal favorite Mariners, Jamie Moyer.
Oh, I know Jamie. Jamie's Philadelphia hero for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So since you got Jamie's card, what was his rookie year? How long did he play?
This was his rookie year.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. So, and he pitched 3 consecutive no-hitters.
Really?
Yeah, in high school. Not
Yeah, I mean, now it's like
yeah.
even in high school, that's hard. That's
pretty
difficult.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, Jamie's definitely a Philadelphia hero. I haven't heard much about him. He still does charities and stuff around here, but yeah, I mean, when the Phillies won the World Series, he was like 40, over 45. I forget, but yeah,
he's probably still pitching somewhere.
Yeah. Because I do an on this day baseball thing, and I haven't done it for a while because I'm doing this. And he was like the oldest pitcher to start a game at 48 with the Rockies.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, he was amazing. And, but at the end, he was throwing like 75, but just in the right, as long as he had a good ump that gave him the corner, he was fine. You know, it was the days when if the ump didn't like him, it was ugly, but, yeah, a good 5 years after, his 40s, that as long as he had a good ump, he was definitely effective.
Cool. All right. Ed Owine for the Braves. Let's see.
Yeah.
So it just says he was conference All-American 3 times in high school.
Those Braves, when they were like those uniforms back then, they just seemed like a totally different team than when they started getting good in the 90s.
Yeah.
But they were just awful back. Those uniforms, they were awful.
But Dale Murphy was around, so you gotta like
Dale Murphy's fine, yeah, but
I forget you're a Philly fan, so you're like, the Braves suck. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't like them too much. My wife's family's from Georgia, so they kind of like them, but I hate them.
That's fair enough. It was kind of that 90s thing where you were like a Lakers fan, or a Bulls fan, a Cowboys fan, and a Braves fan, or a Yankee fan. It was like, oh man, like everyone's just jumping on the bandwagon for those guys.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
I'm a Bulls and Yankees fan, so I take umbrage to that.
And you like the Bulls because of what? Michael Jordan?
Because of Michael Jordan.
Yeah, exactly. So
to be fair, at the time I watched basketball, I couldn't have given a who was winning the championships. I just really liked Michael Jordan as a player.
Yeah. That's more typical with basketball.
Yeah, you kind of follow the player. When the player goes, you go from there. So
yeah.
Cool. All right, we got Hall of Famer Eddie Murray, and he's rocking the orange unis.
He was great. Yeah, he was quite a slugger. Good hair.
Mustache.
Oh,
it's a good picture of Eddie.
He's got those. Can you see that? He's got those 80s glasses on there.
Yeah, like for a Hall of Famer, I feel like he's underrated. Like he was very, very good hitter.
All right, so we've got Cecilio Gante. So the Pirates.
I don't remember him. I remember the Pirates hats. That's
everyone says that. I missed the hats. They need to bring the hats back.
Yeah, no clue.
So he plays winter baseball in the Dominican Republic and enjoys playing cards in his leisure time. So if you do. All right, we got another Brave here, Rick Mahler. I don't
remember him. He doesn't look like a baseball player.
So obviously he was not interested because it said Rick and his wife are parents to 2 sons. So they have a whole lot to say about him.
He's a good dad.
We got Ron Robinson for the Cincinnati.
Man.
So
yeah, no clue.
Yeah, All-American California for baseball, football, and basketball. So clearly talented.
He doesn't look like an athlete, to be honest with you.
No, he doesn't. No, he just looks like he's kind of jumped off the couch and hey, we need someone to take a picture. All right, here's an old school guy, Bill Russell for the Dodgers. That must have been his last year.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah, Dodgers still got the same logo. Yeah.
Yep. So he started in '69 with his season. It was his first season.
69. Jeez.
All right. So we got another Hall of Famer. We got Paul Molitor.
Ah, yeah. I remember Paul Monner. Yeah, I had a lot of respect for him. He was a great hitter. He had a high average, right?
Yeah, I always hit for average. So I don't think he ever led the league, but I think he always 304, 267, 302, 270, 297, 281. Yeah, it was just kind of consistent.
Yeah.
We're getting down here. We got Rob Wilfong. Cool name, but yeah, that's about it. So his brother James played pro ball in 78. So.
Okay. Yeah, no clue.
Okay, we're getting down to the last two. Sammy Stewart of the Red Sox.
Yeah, I should remember that. So I don't remember him. Did he play? How many games did he play?
He was definitely a middle relief pitcher.
Okay.
Yeah, 30, 50, 60, 55. So there's that. And our last card with the gum stuck to the back is Alfredo Griffin.
Don't remember him, but that's a good card. I like that action shot.
Yeah. So yeah, apparently he learned to switch hit in the minors.
That's good. No better time than that.
Yeah, exactly. It says I'm really crap, so I need to learn something quick. So I can have a playing career and get some playing time.
Yeah, you're cut. Did I tell you I can from the other side?
Randall, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. So nice to meet you, and thanks for having me for sure.
Yeah, definitely. We'll definitely do this again, and we'll definitely meet up either in Scotland or we'll have to come visit you and catch a Phillies game.
Yeah, don't wear that Yankees hat in Philly, though.
I'll switch it to my Glasgow Comets hat.
Yeah,
instead.
that's good. I'm teasing. It's all good. But yeah, thank you guys. Very, very good to be here. So I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
It's been a blast, Randall. Thank you so much for joining us. Guys, that's the last interview for tonight. What I want to do before we go is quickly give a shout out to Matt over at the British Baseball Podcast. He's done an interview with Bart Cooper, who is another one of the NLBMArt fundraiser artists. So if you go to British Baseball Podcast on YouTube and check that out, Matt does a great job at his show as well. On that note, we'll say goodnight because the Yankees are about to start, and Yanks in 4.
Night.
All right, see you guys. Thanks a lot.